The start of the 2023 season is upon us. Bahrain pre-season testing, followed by the Bahrain Grand Prix, is right around the corner. And after an unsatisfactory season with a subpar car, Mercedes have made some fundamental changes to the W14 car ahead of the sessions in Bahrain. What are these crucial changes made to the W14? Will they allow a successful start to the season for Mercedes? Watch to the end to uncover everything you need to know. So, what are these key changes made ahead of Bahrain? Mercedes knew it had to make changes to the W13 car if it would compete for titles in 2023, and it had indeed made some serious changes. Aside from the colour, the W14 might not look different from the W13 in the eyes of the average person. However, these two cars are significantly different. Let's take a look exactly how they are so different. Firstly, Mercedes had to do a lot of work on its braking system in order to become competitive again. The brake issue that plagued the W13 is different from what the average non-race car might deal with. So you might need help understanding what it was and its significance to the quality of a Formula 1 car, which we'll explain very shortly. It's safe to say an F1 driver will feel very disturbed if there is even the slightest issue with the car's brakes. Hamilton regularly complained about the brakes of the W13 in the 2022 Formula 1 season. The W13 consistently had brake separation because of the difference in temperature between the left and right brakes. Due to this brake separation, the right and left brakes put in a different amount of work. One always had more temperature and outperformed the other. The Mercedes team did not have to do much to discover this challenge, as Hamilton already spoke about it, and had taken adequate steps to fix it in the W14 car. The brake issue with the W13 was so significant Mercedes had to work on it while out on the grid because Hamilton's experience during a reconnaissance lap. After the brakes, Mercedes fixed the drag that the W13 experienced. In 2022, Mercedes had to deal with a lot of unwanted drag due to poor aerodynamics. It was so significant Hamilton considered it either the most important or second most significant issue with the W13, and he insisted it had to be fixed in the next car. Why was there so much unnecessary drag in the W13? Well, Mercedes made some compromises while dealing with its critical core challenges. One of its moves was to raise the car's height to prevent bouncing, required for a smoother ride quality and to combat porpoising. It did not end at that. It also went on to select a rear wing bigger than necessary. Why? Well, Mercedes picked this bigger wing because it needed more downward force because of the car's height. This drag seemed insignificant in certain races such as Mexico, and in these races, Mercedes did not look so disadvantaged. However, drag was a significant issue in the majority of the races. As you can probably tell, there were several issues responsible for the drag that Mercedes experienced. However, the aerodynamic inefficiency of its car was chief. This aerodynamic inefficiency has since been fixed in the W14. Equally as important as solving the aerodynamics is adjusting the ride height. The W14 runs lower than the W13, but what does this mean for the new car? The W13 had to deal with a good number of aerodynamic issues. Due to this, it could only function if it ran higher. While this did not seem like the ideal thing to do, it would bounce aggressively against the track surface if it was too low. Inasmuch as the ride height of the W13 was not constantly high, the only way it could survive some tracks was when it was increased. The increase in car height seemed to work well, however, it came with some limitations. There was just how far its suspension could travel, so the car height could only be increased to an extent. While an increase in height made it possible for the car to function on some tracks, it had its share of downsides. One of these downsides was the absence of ample downward force. This in itself is bad. However, even worse is the fact that it had even more drag. The W14 generally is of better quality in all regards we've just mentioned. Issues of aerodynamic inefficiency have been dealt with. Also, it runs lower than its predecessor, so it should perform better, but only time will tell. the height of the car is arguably less important than the final change to the engine itself. One area of the W14 markedly different from the W13 is its engine. The W13 had an engine deficit and Mercedes constantly worked on it throughout the 2022 Formula 1 season. As much as they did a lot of work on this engine in the previous year, it still made significant changes in the W14. The work on the engine of the W13 started in the second half of the previous year and continued on the W14. And because of the route that Mercedes high-performance powertrains boss, Whill took, this change is expected to last the test of time. What do Mercedes have to say about the progression from the W13 to the W14? Well, the W13 seemed like a nice car, but Mercedes have admitted made some development mistakes that caused various issues. In other words, there was more to the W13's problems than severe porpoising, which I'm sure we know about by now. Talking about significant struggles in the W13, technical director Elliott had this to say: "When you look at a car, you have to look at its whole. When you think about strengths and weaknesses, we could probably talk circuit to circuit. When we look at how we developed the car, and I could point one moment in time last year where we made a mistake. What you're seeing in terms of performance at the track and how it swings from race to race is a consequence of that. That's a mistake we've known about for a while. It's something we've been correcting. And that's why our performance has gradually gotten better. But it's not something that we can fully correct for a little while yet. We will do over in the winter. I can't tell you the technical detail because it's something we won't want to give away, but I can tell you these cars are complicated. In order to get the right solution, you have to get the best out of the vehicle dynamics, aerodynamics, tyres, the way the chassis work mechanically. When you make these compromises that are technically difficult, when you look at this year's car versus last year's car, they're fundamentally run in a completely different way. You know, they run close to the ground, obviously seeing the problems of bouncing, and so that transition from what we were doing last year to this year, we got something slightly wrong. So, tell us in the comments whether you think Mercedes have done enough with the new W14 to be back to its winning ways. If you like this video, then you're going to want to watch the video on your screen right now.